You lose a bet, you gotta come here tonight. Please stand for the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Roll call, please.
Commissioner Clausen.
Here.
Commissioner Cox. Commissioner Graven. Here. Commissioner Fitz.
He said here.
He said here. Here.
Yeah, I'm here too.
Consent agenda. Items listed on the consent agenda are considered to be routine in nature and will be enacted by one motion. No separate discussion of these items will occur unless a council member requests the item to be removed from the consent agenda. If an item is removed from the consent agenda, it will be considered elsewhere on the agenda for this meeting. Prior to asking for a motion to approve the consent agenda, the mayor will ask if anyone desires to remove an item from the consent agenda for public discussion. Would anybody like to remove any item from the consent agenda? Hearing none, I move to approve the minutes of the regular meeting of February the 21st, 2023, the bills and payroll for the last half of February 2023, and the home rehab checks, and also resolution number 2023-3238, approving the continuation of a local state of emergency due to the coronavirus COVID-19. Can I have a second to that motion?
I will second.
Commissioner Graven, and roll call.
Commissioner Clausen.
Yes.
Commissioner Graven. Yes. Commissioner Fitz.
Yes.
Mayor Hall.
Yes. Presentations, petitions, and communications. This portion of the city council meeting is reserved for persons who desire to address the council. The Illinois Open Meetings Act mandates that the city may not take action on comments received on matters that have not been identified on this agenda. But the council may direct staff to address the topic or refer the matter for action on the agenda for another meeting. Persons addressing the council are requested to limit their presentations to 3 minutes and to avoid repetitious comments. We would also ask you state your name and address for the record, as well as stand when speaking. Is anybody in the audience want to address the council? Is anybody online, would you like to address the council? Hearing none, we've got a presentation on the Sol System solar panel proposal for the WWTP.
Awesome. Is it helpful if I just get started?
Yep,
Yes,
go
let's
ahead.
go right ahead.
There's Jill.
Awesome.
You need to put name right.
Jill, what's your last name, please?
Yeah, it's Rathke, Rathke.
Thank you.
Awesome. Cool. So just wanted to talk through this solar proposal for the wastewater treatment plant. And so I work on the business development team at Sol Systems, and I'm going to run through a few slides that Ethan and I have already talked through. So here's a quick agenda. I'll keep it pretty short. I don't need to go through all 35 slides, but definitely good to have them here in case there's any questions. Next slide. And next slide. Cool. So the company Sol Systems, we're a renewable energy platform. So we do battery storage and solar development and financing across the US. And we offer a number of solutions. We do smaller solar projects at the distributed generation scale, which is the size, maybe 5 to 20 acres of land, for example. And then we do much larger projects, thousands of acres, that are what we call utility scale. But in general, we're always focused on making sure the local community is impacted positively. Next slide. And specifically, we have committed financing for the project. So the project is offered at no upfront cost to you all, and you just pay for the project by buying all of the kilowatt hours that the solar project generates. And we can do that because we have this financing from Arevon Energy, which the large Infrastructure Fund. One of their biggest investors is the California Teachers Pension Fund. And so they bring in the capital to then own and operate the projects. Next slide. And definitely feel free to jump in if there's questions. So we've done a number of projects for big corporates. There's some big names here. The most recent one that was actually just announced today is we're doing a big project for Google. We do a lot of projects for public utilities, both electric utilities, water utilities, cities, and then universities. And we have specifically a very large presence in Illinois. Next slide. So we've done a number of projects for water treatment facilities in Illinois, as well as some colleges and universities. A lot of projects in the Champaign area as well, which is pretty close to you all. So I won't go into all of these projects, but the most recent project that we've kicked off development on is for the Urbana-Champaign Sanitary District. So that's another water treatment plant and a pretty similar sized solar array. If there's any questions on any of those projects, there's a number of case studies at the end that we could talk through. But I'll just talk about the solar array for you all. Next slide. Awesome. So here's our proposed pricing and layout, and we've iterated a few times with some feedback that Ethan had, but we can be flexible. If awarded this project, we'll do site studies, we'll find out more about the site and may need to adjust the layout. So it's good that there's some extra land here and there. The 1,832 kilowatt size is based on the space constraint, but most importantly, we've sized to 95% of the annual facility electric load. So that gives a little bit of a buffer in case there's any energy efficiency upgrades, but maximizing the size is good for maximizing energy savings, which is the main driver for this project. We can offer a shorter power purchase agreement term, PPA, if preferred, but the longer the term, the lower the rate we can sell the electricity for, which is why we're starting out at 30 years. So I'm not sure how familiar everyone is with the current electricity rates that the wastewater treatment plant is paying. So we go to the next slide. That's a good, or maybe a few more slides down. But one thing to highlight on this slide is that there's a story to tell with solar, and it's environmentally friendly, but through the incentive program that Illinois has for solar, it allows us to offer very low power purchase agreement rates, which is great for you all, but does mean that we sell the environmental attributes to the local utility, Ameren. So it's just something to point out. Corporates usually care about it because they're trying to report out on their carbon footprint, but smaller wastewater treatment plants, it's really about savings. So this is the structure of the power purchase agreement. We execute a PPA contract, and then that's pretty much the only thing that Mattoon needs to do. We will get permits for the site, work with Ameren, the local utility, to get approval to interconnect the project, do a number of site studies, construct the project, and then we own and operate it. So we'll maintain it and then make sure it's producing the estimated kilowatt hours each year. And all that Mattoon needs to do is pay us for those kilowatt hours so that we can generate a return on our investment. Any questions on the structure?
Yes. This is Dean Carver. I have two questions. One, in the first handout that I got, there was a fixed rate of 4.09 cents per kilowatt hour. Were you showing 4.5 just now?
Yeah, perfect, yes. So the rate did go up in the most recent iteration, and that's based on the state incentive program. I can talk a little bit more about that, but the high level detail is that the state has announced a rate that they'll pay to buy the renewable energy credits from the project, but it's basically just for every kilowatt hour of energy, they pay a certain incentive. So we monetize that incentive to then offer a lower PPA rate to you all. So the the current incentive program is called Block 6, and it technically is open until May of this year, and then Block 7 opens up in May. But Block 6 already filled up. It's a first come, first serve, and there's a limited capacity of kilowatts across all projects in the state. So we updated the pricing to reflect the new block, which is Block 7. And then we also updated it to reflect some layout changes, which slightly increased the price.
Okay. And maybe silly question, we are paying for the electricity that we use at the plant. If there's electricity left over, you're selling that on the grid? Store?
Based on the technical tie-in structure of the solar array to your guys' facility, it's a bit difficult for us to sell excess electricity annually, but Illinois has a net metering program, which basically just means that solar will produce a lot during the day and then won't produce anything at night. And so as long as you all annually net out to have the same kilowatt hour annual usage as the solar array, then you all get credits for the kilowatt hours that are generated in excess of the load during the day to then apply to your load at night. So we've sized the system to 95% of the facility's annual load. So if the solar array, it can't really overproduce just because it's physical hardware, but if it overproduced by more than 5%, then we would need to curtail that. But our expectation is that you all would buy all of the kilowatt hours that the array generates and would either get offset of the facility or would get credits that are equal to the value of what you're paying from Ameren.
Thank you.
Yeah, totally. Anybody else have questions about the structure or the layout or anything like that? Okay, cool. Next slide then. Here's another simple illustration. Nothing else to add on this one, actually. Next slide. Cool. Awesome. So electricity rates have gone up. I'm sure most people are aware over the past few years. So specifically, the wastewater treatment plant's rate has gone up by a bit, even just from 2022 to 2023. So the rate on the left is a combination of what the wastewater treatment plant buys from a third-party retail energy supplier called Homefield Energy for just the energy supply, and then additional dollar per kilowatt hour charges that come from Ameren to deliver the energy. So that rate, could fluctuate over time. We all expect it to continue to increase. The industry standard forecast is just 2% annually each year, just reflecting inflation and things like that. And then on the right side, the PPA rate that we're offering would lock in that rate for 30 years and would not escalate over time. So the savings would magnify as the avoided grid power rate potentially escalates. Next slide. And then there's a lot of numbers here, but the couple of takeaways are that we can offer an escalator on the PPA rate, which would allow us to offer a lower year one PPA rate that then gets higher over time, or we can offer different term lengths, 15, 20, 25, 30, anything in between. And so here we've got a few different terms and adding escalators. And the very two bottom rows show the year one savings and then the total term savings based on our forecasts. So basically any of the options you would pick, you would have fairly similar savings, but in total terms, but the year one is higher if you select an escalator. Cool. Any questions on this? Well, next slide. Super simple. Don't need to explain it too much. it's definitely a hedge on volatile energy costs, which has become more valuable recently as energy costs have been all over the place. Next slide. And then here's just a breakdown of how we got to that total savings number. So you can just see that each year the savings is expected to increase. Awesome. Next slide. Here's some pricing assumptions that we don't need to dig into too much now. The incentive program that I mentioned is on the left side of the PowerPoint, the middle bullet point, adjustable block program, block 7. So they recently announced drafted pricing for that incentive, but it's going to be finalized in a few months. So we'll have to true it up once it's announced. Another thing to keep in mind is just that we do see a limited portion of where we're proposing the solar array to potentially be in a 500-year floodplain, which was still fine. We can build an array there. It just adds some cost. So once we get on site and do some site visits, we may want to reorient the array or confirm if there is in fact a floodplain there. And then the last thing to note is that Ameren will do a study on our project and how it will impact the local grid, and then give us approval to interconnect the project. And typically they will require us to pay for some local grid upgrades to be able to handle the new solar array on the system. And it's really completely up to them what those costs are. You know, they have a formal study process, but we've put in a placeholder of $100,000 for now based on recent experience with similar sized projects with Ameren. But that's another thing that once the interconnection study is complete, we can provide adjusters to the PPA rate based on every, $20,000, something like that, to adjust PPA rate afterwards. We just had a very large project come in at like $15,000. So I would assume it's probably going to be upside there. And then the last thing on timing is that these projects do take a while to get permits, approvals, and then construct. So just to level set, we wouldn't expect the project to be operating until Q4 2024. So it's typically close to a 2-year process from when the project is kicked off. Any questions on this one? Cool. Awesome. We've got a lot of projects where we're doing pollinator-friendly habitat, which is just local native plants, often with flowers. So we haven't priced that into this project, and it's not too much more expensive, especially because we have a few projects very close by with pollinator, but just wanted to flag it. It would be awesome to organize a site visit for those interested to one of our other operating solar projects in Illinois. And so we could go to the University of Illinois site where they have, that site's been operating for a few years. So the plants are finally starting to flower. But this could be an additional benefit if it felt like it's something that the community would appreciate. Next slide. Well, just some other photos just to get everyone on the same page about what this will look like. Awesome. Maybe I'll just pause. Is it helpful to talk through some of these incentives and some of our case studies, or do you all have pretty limited time? Because I think now we're moving off of the exact project details for you guys and more just background on the industry.
How's the rest of the group feel? Like, our general goal here was to give a presentation to council so that you can see an outline of what's going on. Then Ethan and I can answer questions between now and whatever time we come back with the actual proposal for council approval. You guys want to stop here and continue with the rest of the meeting?
Okay.
I have a quick question. The panels, we go forward with this, where are they going to be located?
That's what I was going to ask too.
Yeah, that is back towards the beginning, and they're pretty small on the screen.
Yeah, the
But
blue
the
lines.
blue lines are where the panels will be located.
All those.
Mhm.
Does-
Some of those on the The far right is out in an area that's not used right now. And then the other blocks that you see are on ground that we lease out for farming right now.
Is there any conflict with the potential of replacing the plant where that site is right now? If we do a plant replacement, is there an issue here?
I don't see any with the two blocks to the east, maybe on those couple panels that are just north.
It's not looking east.
North.
North is up.
I gotcha.
East.
So,
So there is a potential conflict to the north?
Yeah, we might want to talk to them about the location of those panels.
Yeah, so they haven't finalized, we haven't finalized all the
going east.
details for the layout of it, yeah. This is just a preliminary concept.
We can definitely iterate. I think the one that was included in the original agenda had a slightly different layout. So happy to talk through this in more detail if you have more feedback on the layout.
Don't have any other questions for them. I'm sure, like I said, we can sit down and talk with Ethan and Dean on anything else that you
Yeah.
guys
Okay.
might
I
need.
just have one question for Jill. I'm familiar with IMEA. What is their kilowatt hour price? Do you know?
So they did not take advantage of the incentive program, the adjustable block program, because they have customers that really want them to retain the renewable energy credits and be able to kind of make claims about renewable energy. So their rate is a bit higher than this. I'm not sure what it is. Frankly, the cost of equipment was a bit cheaper about 2 years ago before the COVID supply chain issues. So I am not sure how much more expensive it is than this one, but it is higher than, that's the highest Illinois PPA rates that we've executed is with IMEA.
Okay, thank you.
And we actually, it's still in the process of being announced, but we have 3 more projects under development with IMEA right now. So that'll total 6 projects once those are operating. Cool. Well, I'm happy to talk through the incentives and some of our case studies if you all are curious, but I also just don't want to take up too much of your meeting. So up to you all.
Well,
We're good. Yep.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Everybody else okay? Move on.
yes, thank you very much. I really appreciate the information, and Ethan and I will be in touch with you to finish out the discussion.
Awesome.
Thank you.
Cool. Thanks so much, all.
Okay. New business is next. I move to adopt ordinance number 2023-5461, adopting the amendments to chapter 114 of the Liquor Control Section 114.22 F of the Mattoon Code of Ordinance to update T1 and T2 licenses and to establish festival districts. Can I have a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Okay, Commissioner Clausen seconds. Now, discussion. I don't know who ought to lead this necessarily, but there is the potential of making some modifications of this motion. But maybe what we ought to do first is just take any questions anybody has. I know everybody's had a chance to look at it, but I don't, this is all generated jointly, I think, with Angelia, with the festival districts, and also Alex spent a lot of time on this to put this together. The objective is to attract and utilize space today that we have. I think do more of these kinds of festivals than we've done in the past, like other cities have done. It is, in my opinion, a progressive move for the city of Mattoon to do this. We've got a festival planned. If we can well, I think it'd probably go forward regardless, but we think this is, can add some things to it. Spent a lot of time discussing this item. I don't know if anybody has any questions, but
Yeah, this-
anybody, other comments? Anybody want to make, Angeli or Alex or Kyle?
I'll just say on the festival, it's really not changing a whole lot from the temporary liquor licenses that we have. Other than, like right now, it's got to be contained in a fenced-in area. This will allow it to be a designated area with signage saying that no alcohol beyond this point. That's really the biggest change on this first section. We will take any questions on the first section that you want, because we are going to discuss some
Another-
also
Yeah,
some other
changes.
possible changes that have come up. But let's start with the festival management first. Does anybody have any questions on those?
I don't know if it's specific to that, but my understanding, this ordinance, we will go from 3 special use permits to 6. Is that correct?
Per a group, or yes.
Per group.
Yeah, so I used to use Knights of Columbus because they used to do one of those events every year. They could have done 3 every year. This would now go to 6 that one could put on.
And it just kind of increases fundraising opportunities for not-for-profits, especially with that T1 license. And that contributes, in my mind, to the culture of the town, and more events for people to go to. So.
Any other questions on the festival side of things?
Okay. So we would like to look at an amendment to this,
So there is, amendment on your,
which everybody has a copy of.
Yeah.
And
it's in blue, and it's basically on tastings.
yeah, I do.
On page 4.
Yeah, the last page. And a couple years ago, we did amend the tasting for the Harry's out on Old State Road, the gas station. And they even wanted to do more than what we had amended it to. We haven't had any issues with them out there on their sampling. The county market, Neiman's Food, has approached the mayor and wanting to do more sampling. I don't know if anyone's been in there lately, but they've kind of got like a bar section up front. This would allow someone to come in and sample just very small amounts of different alcohols, wines, or beer, and sample the product before purchasing. And they feel that they would be able to possibly sell more because people would actually get to be able to taste it. And if it's a shot, it's only a quarter of a shot glass.
All you get is half a beer.
Yeah. If it's wine, it's 3 ounces. If it's beer, it's 6 ounces. That's the most that you could get.
Yeah, but you can get that like 40 times.
No, well, not really.
Yeah.
Not the way this works. But, I might give a little bit of history here. Neiman Foods has put a lot of money into county market store, not related specifically, or not only, I should say, to this tasting concept. They've went in and done a lot of remodeling. They actually have a dining area. You can go in there and sit and eat. The liquor section has expanded quite a bit. They've added a bar. They've also added
Check out.
check-in lines, which they didn't have before. They spent several $1 million in doing this. They've got other things in mind that they would like to do. I just learned today that they would like to have a sort of grand opening in a few weeks, which I was not aware of. I knew they were going to do something, but I just didn't know exactly what it was. They have got other stores like this that do this, along with stores like Kroger, Whole Foods, Barron's. There's a chain of 100 stores called Wigmans. I don't know if you're familiar with them, but there's a number of stores that have done this. And they've done it for a couple of reasons, and that is to get people to spend more time in the stores, to spend more time actually buying groceries. A lot of people have changed the way they buy groceries today. They go with a list. They may not even go and pick it out themselves, but they're trying to get people in the stores to spend time. They find out if they do that, they actually buy more food products. So it's really all about that. Neiman's believes that they've invested a lot of money in Mattoon. They've done it in places like Champaign and Decatur also. And I think they want to be an important part of our community, and I think they're going to demonstrate that in a number of ways. So this addendum is something that they would actually like to be able to do when they have their opening, but they also realize that this is, I talked to the guy today, he said, look, if it passes tonight, that's fine, but when you want to have this opening, we're going to be out of time. So, and I'm not trying to say you got to do this, because I've said to him, if this passes tonight, indeed we can do that. They've been working on the project for over a year. And so anyway, that's just some color to the project, I think, itself. Do you have any questions offhand?
I do have a question on
Yeah.
D. It says product sampling during regular operating hours, but then in 2A, it says purchase pursuant to the hours. So for instance, we don't serve alcohol on Sundays till noon, so they could drink in the morning but not buy. So
No,
that's what I'm a little confused as far
the
as.
reason why I put that in there is essentially that would limit them to be able to not do that on Sundays.
So sampling would only be during normal liquor
Yes.
hours available to sell?
Mhm.
Okay. It's kind of confusing because it says up here, during regular operating hours. So if they're open 6 a.m. to 10 or 11 o'clock at night,
Yeah.
that indicates they could start sampling at 6 a.m. or,
So in D, my mindset behind that was essentially, let's say their regular operating hours at, country market or county market, sorry, is, let's say they close at 8, they wouldn't be able to hold a tasting at 9. That's essentially the purpose behind that. And then I referenced the hours section of the ordinance, again, to make sure that they're not able to do that when they're open on a Sunday, but yet that's not allowed. So
that section 114.53 does talk about the hours and the Sunday hours and all that.
But and Dan, you've looked at this too, I think.
I'm
We
still,
got to make it.
No,
I've not seen the
not
amendment.
Haven't seen it.
I've not seen the amendment.
Okay.
I'm
So, Sandy,
So
for
it
sure
says
the intent.
continuous product sampling license may hold product sampling in events in perpetuity during regular operating hours of their business, during times when products of such a nature are able to be purchased pursuant. So does that mean that I can sample, but I can't buy
no, it means
outside of the hours?
at all
No, it's
until those hours are met.
Okay.
Like during their regular operating hours of their business, during times when products of such a nature are able to be purchased pursuant to the pre-established rules.
Okay, so the hour sampling is only available during hours of liquor sale?
Yes.
correct.
Gotcha.
Other questions we might have? Any questions from anybody that's online?
Dan, what's your opinion as far as that verbiage in that new amended?
Well, I don't know what 114.53 says off the top of my head, but I mean, I agree with Alex, the way it's stated, that it's long as 114.53 is addressing the Sunday hours and all that, then
Okay.
yeah, it is limiting to times you can have samplings at times when the business is open and is able to sell alcohol.
Okay.
That's certainly the intent.
That's what I figured the
Yeah.
intent was, but I just want to,
Yeah.
intent and
sometimes
verbiage
it-
sometimes don't
Right,
always
right.
agree, so.
So my question, Angela, how would this play in with Bagel Fest? This change?
The first thing it's gonna do is for Bagel Bites, which is our new music series, which is gonna be in Heritage Park. So we will, we'll do a festival district on top of that area, so that we can have music and, you know, folks can get from a small amount of time, can get a drink and come sit down, listen to music or get food. I mean, that would be encouraged. So that will be the first place that we'll see it. When it comes to Bagel Fest, we're talking about doing something just within the scope of Broad Street and not doing an entire festival district on top of the entire park, but starting out at least this year, seeing what it looks like just to have it during the concerts. So that's our intent. I think it's something that, I think we've needed to change the way we were doing the beer tent. That wasn't working much like we thought we would. So this is I think a more elegant way to do it for sure. And I think it has the kind of boundaries on it that we need. So I'm very pleased with the idea.
Sam, what's your opinion as far as policing this?
I think it's the venue more than it is alcohol. I mean, you don't see brawls and fights at a winery. You see them at bars. So yeah, I think I would be selective on who I issue these permits to. But Bagel Fest, the beer tent's a perfect example. Not every concert held there was a problem, but some were. It just depends on what crowd it drew. It's not the alcohol, it's the venue.
Well, my only concern, it somewhat is at Bagel Fest, you did have a fenced-in area. This is more of open. So as an example, say they're behind DeBurr's along that area in that parking lot. They decide to walk across the street over to Casey Summers or something, you know, now they're outside of the mapped area. But like you said, it depends on the venue. Can be a lot of issues, so, okay.
Yeah, we don't have the fenced-in area like we had before, but we do have boundaries that are specified, and the security is required at every one of these events. And anybody, you can only drink out of a certain kind of container. So anybody that goes outside of that boundary that's defined, then they're either going to be sent back in, we're going to take away their drink, or we're going to, you know, we're
They could
whatever
be,
action that we need to take.
yeah.
So even though the boundaries it's not like a wall, there is still boundaries.
Yeah, I understand the mapping, but you indicated, you just made the statement that each will have security.
Right.
And that's not written in the ordinance, but that is underneath the authority of the liquor commissioner to require that.
After Champagne, I mean, other places have done it, but they've done it with some success. And the whole idea of doing a district for just a period of time is been successful for them. I mean, I'm sure that there's always one bad apple in lunch, but generally speaking, they've had good success.
No, I'm definitely for it. I just want to make sure that, you know, all our eggs are our ducks are in a row, so to speak.
So I want to make sure too, we'll use the Bagel Bites concert as an example. They will provide their own security. It will not have to be the Mattoon police officers providing that security. Is that correct?
When it's a city event, we have stand by 100%.
Yeah.
So how that works is, and typically if they're having something in Mattoon, most people don't have their own private security. If it's a city of Mattoon,
Then it would.
they get overtime.
I
paid
gotcha.
By the city. If it's another outside of the city of Mattoon, they would call and ask us, and then they pay us off duty.
Okay.
The officers go out off duty and work it.
Got it.
Bagel Bites is ours to manage, so, yeah.
Kind of like a broom corn, right? Up in Arcola, similar.
Walmart's
think-
a perfect example. When they close down over the Christmas break, they hire off-duty officers. They call the PD, but it's not the city paying for it. Walmart pays for officers to go out and provide security. I imagine it would be the same with whatever,
Party it is.
yeah, whatever.
Whatever group it is.
And the liquor commissioner at any time has the sole authority to end that district. And it's not just for public health reasons or anything like that. It's for any reason whatsoever. So if something got too rowdy, done.
So did you say that as part of this, as part of this code to get, the green light to do this, they have to have security? Is that what I heard?
It's not in the written in the ordinance, but yes, that is what we are talking about. The liquor,
Excuse me?
Is there going to be a number?
that's what we would talk to you about, and that's why we didn't write it in there yet. It's
Gotcha.
underneath the.
So they got to go through an application process. It's got to be done a certain amount of time ahead of time to do it. We may end up having to talk to you specifically about it, or whoever you assign to it, to see what we need to have. But we got to have time to evaluate each one of them. Once they start, and if they're repeats, we'll know a lot more about it.
Okay, so
Okay, so-
we got a motion and a second for the first part on the festivals.
Right.
You could make a motion on the second part if you wish and see,
To amend and add that sentence.
yeah, to make it add the
Yeah.
section D.
So I'll see how that, I will move that we do amend, is it called the product sampling? How do we define that?
Keep going, keep going.
Amending to.
Keep turning.
There's a product sampling right there,
Okay.
but the blue part.
Yep.
Yes.
So I would move that we adopt the section D under 11440.2 product sampling to this. And I'd like to get a second on that. No, you can't do that. Sorry, Jeff.
Do what?
He wants to second.
Oh.
Jeff, he's being,
I'll second that. I mean, you're adding the blue. You're
Right.
basically, we're adding.
yeah, I didn't read the whole thing. I can read it if you like.
No, that's okay.
So, okay, we have a second. Any other discussion on this item? We've kind of covered it already, but if you got any other specific questions on this section D of this product sampling section. Any questions anybody has? Okay, hearing none, then we move,
A roll call on the amending the motion.
the amending first, okay. Roll call on the amending then.
Okay, Commissioner Clausen,
Yes.
Commissioner Graven,
Yes.
Commissioner Phipps,
Yes.
Mayor Hall.
Yes. Okay, now we move on the
The
original.
original motion
Motion.
as amended, yeah.
As amended.
As amended.
Yep.
Okay, we've already seconded that one.
Yep.
Or-
Yeah.
Right,
Yep.
so we do roll call.
Commissioner Clausen,
Yes.
Commissioner Graven,
Yes.
Commissioner Phipps,
Yes.
Mayor Hall.
Yes. Okay, that was. And now we go to.
Motion number 2.
Who's that?
Motion to adopt special ordinance number 2023-1851, authorizing the purchase of a permanent stormwater easement in the amount of $22,725 and a temporary construction easement in the amount of $1,000 from Gordon and Chrissy Taylor for the Little Wabash Piping Project Phase 1.
Is there a second to that motion?
I'll second that.
Commissioner Phipps? And questions, comments?
I'll just go ahead and speak about both items. These are both easements, obviously, the Wabash Drainage Project from a farm field owned, managed by First Mid. Happens to be, the trust is called the Gordon Taylor and Chrissy Taylor Charitable Trust. And the first easement that you have in front of you is for the piping that we described as the Phase 1 piping project from the Wabash Drainage Ditch to Route 16. And then the next motion will be for the waterway from the drainage ditch to Route 16.
Okay. Any further questions on that or any comments on that? Hearing none from anybody, we'll take roll call.
Commissioner Phipps,
Yes.
Commissioner Clausen.
Yes.
Commissioner Graven,
Yes.
Mayor Hall.
Yes.
Motion to adopt special ordinance number 2023-1852, authorizing the purchase of a permanent grass waterway easement in the amount of $53,025 from Gordon and Chrissy Taylor for the Little Wabash Piping Project Phase 1.
And a second on that motion.
I'll second that again.
Commissioner Phipps, and any further comments or questions other than what we've already had on this one? Hearing none, we'll do roll call.
Commissioner Clausen.
Yes.
Commissioner Graven,
Yes.
Commissioner Phipps,
Yes.
Mayor Hall.
Yes.
I make a motion to approve council decision request 2023-2330, approving the water and sewer billing adjustment in the amount of $3,751.32 on behalf of May Chin, located at 1512 Richmond Avenue.
And a second on that motion.
Second.
Commissioner Clausen, and any comments you'd like to make, anybody on this one?
So this was still part of that Christmas breeze.
Right.
And the original bill was over $7,500.
Okay,
Quite a lot.
okay. Any other questions? Roll call, please.
Commissioner Graven,
Yes.
Commissioner Phipps,
Yes.
Commissioner Clausen.
Yes.
Mayor Hall.
Yes. I move to approve council decision request 2023-2331, authorizing the purchase of two 2023 Ford Explorer Police Interceptor utility all-wheel drive vehicles in the amount of $40,455 each from Morrill Brothers Ford for the Mattoon Police Department. Can I have a second to that motion?
I'll second.
Commissioner Graven, and comments on this. What are we doing here?
This is, we originally were planning on next year's budget to do 3 squad cars, and this year try to do a truck. They sold the truck out from before we could get this accomplished, so we're going to go ahead and purchase 2 squad cars this year's budget, which we will be doing amended budget at, here shortly with some of the changes that we're talking about, purchasing things early, and then we'll have 1 squad and the truck next year in next year's budget. And that's just really what.
And these are mild out. They're
Yeah.
90,000 plus. So they're the 3 that are
Being replaced.
Is this the state bid price on these?
Yes.
Plus. Good.
And we, Pilson's, we try and stay local. Pilson's didn't get
I read that.
get their order in. It's kind of a mess right now, the car industry and ordering and getting things ordered that you need. So Morrow Brothers luckily has some on the lot. That's where we gotta go.
Very good.
Okay. Any other questions? All right, roll call.
Commissioner Phipps,
Yes.
Commissioner Clausen.
Yes.
Commissioner Graven,
Yes.
Mayor Hall.
Yes. Department reports, City Administrator Kyle Gill.
I've just been working on the budgets, been working on sports complex, and been working with other department heads on different projects, and just staying very busy. So I'll just open it up for any questions that you guys have.
Hearing none, City Attorney Dan Jones.
I guess the only thing I want to talk about tonight is the new developments in the Rob Perry liquor license matter. The Liquor Control Commission did rule in our favor at the start of February. Mr. Perry has filed a formal motion to ask the commission to reconsider its decision. The commission is meeting on March 15 to decide if they want to hear a motion for reconsideration. They could just deny it outright, or they could ask each side to produce more information, more briefing, and have an oral argument on it. But I do not get to, I could file some sort of motion besides a response before March 15, but they said they would look at it. So why bother? And I'll report back next meeting about the result, assuming they tell me after the March 15 meeting. So.
Yep. All right. Any questions there? City Clerk Susan O'Brien.
Just preparing for the new insurance rates and, open enrollment for cafeteria plans and 457. Otherwise, business as usual.
Okay. Any questions? Finance, Beth Wright.
I've been busy with the budget, working with Kyle on making revisions. I have the revenue tracking. Since the last meeting, utility tax for February came in at just over 150,000. For March, video gaming, just under 55,000. And a person property replacement tax, 133.5. So in terms of grand totals, we're $986,787 ahead of where we were at this time a year ago. The unrestricted cash in the general fund, 0.564 million. At the last meeting is 11.698. So we're down about 134,000. And that's to be expected. We don't have the sales tax numbers in yet. Space for all I have.
Any questions for Beth? All right, next on the list is Public Works, Dean Barber.
I think I'll just go back and touch on the solar presentation real quickly. When we come back again, we'll put together our price, our savings calculation. I do believe it'll be in the ballpark of the 40 grand they're quoting. Most importantly, they build and maintain the product at face value. I don't see a downside. If the company went broke and disappeared, we would have the solar panels on our property. It's about the only liability that we have. The 4-cent price, now 4.5 cents. Since we've been bidding electricity for our residents, we have only, the very first year, 2013, we had a price below 4 cents per kilowatt hour, 3.9 or something like that. We haven't seen a price below 4 cents. Last 10 or 12 years. The best bids, the price of electricity was 5 cents a kilowatt hour. When does that expire, Beth?
October.
And she'll be rebidding that again. And so our price to compare right now is what we had them put on the slide, which is 6 cents versus 4.5. But in October,
More than likely, it's going to be higher. Yeah.
more than likely it's going to be higher. Right now, Ameren trade, as everybody knows, is 13. But we're going to put together a slide and compare 4 cents to 13 cents. So anyway, we will come back with more detail. That's all I have to report. Thank you very much.
Any questions for Dean? Next on the list is Fire, Chief Helios.
Thank you. Since the last meeting, the guys have answered 141 calls for service. Inspectors have done 4 inspections and follow-ups. They did finish the schools, getting St. John's done last week. We did have a structure fire on Friday. That address was 3117 Commercial. You guys did a good job of keeping it to the room of origin. They did their ARF training and EMS training. Got a report on AJ up in Academy. He's doing well for his first 2 weeks in. And then I would like to thank Dean's guys. We had the bay floor has had some cracks in it for years, but we noticed a section that was about 2 foot wide starting to sink and the concrete was separating. So they've done an excellent job. They dug that out, found that the floor drains were not draining properly, just draining underneath and eroding the soil. So this past week, they've been in here, getting that ready. They pour concrete back in it tomorrow. So thank you to your guys. They're doing a fabulous job. That's all I've got unless anybody's got any questions.
Any questions? All right, next is police. Chief Gates.
The Tyler Tech Suite that was purchased, I don't know, within the past year, is up and running now. That everything from dispatching to report writing to traffic crash reports, everything we do and the fire department is on Tyler Tech. And with this new system, it's up and going now. It's been going for the last week. And so it's trying to get everybody familiar with it is always going to be somewhat difficult, but the guys are coming around pretty good. The downside to it is I have no numbers for you because I don't know how to use it yet. So when I figure that out, I will have some numbers for you.
Great. Any questions? Arts and Tourism, Angelia.
So this week, this last Friday, I announced our third day of Best Entertainer. So now we've got our full list out. It's Colton Dixon, our Christian artist. We have the Country Comeback Tour, which is 3 different artists on the Friday night 90s country, which turned out to be our sweet spot, I think. And then on Saturday night, we have Mark Martell, who it's a Queen tribute band, but it's not just a Queen tribute band. He's actually helped with the Queen movie, Looking at Your Rhapsody movie. He's a part of some serious vocals, so it's going to be extraordinarily good, I think. We've also announced for our bagel bites, we have on our first May event, we have Jane Doe, which is a local favorite. In June, we have Cats Van Do, also local favorite. And then we jump to August and we have Sound City, which just signed with us for that event. So we made sure we had people, there was no barrier. People should be able to come out and enjoy it because they know these are incredibly good musicians. So we're excited about that. For Matching Arts Council, we have a couple of quilt events this month. On the 18th, we have a drop-in and sew for the Prairie Stitchers. We're going to come in and just do a day in the depot where they sew together. And then it's kind of like a fundraiser. And then also on the 25th, we have a foot workshop with Jamie Willis, a student from Strong University. It's a quality event. And then we're also working on the May 13th artworks.
Great. Sounds like a busy schedule for the summer.
Mm-hmm.
Any questions? All right. Last but not least, community development. Alex.
Yeah, sorry I wasn't here last meeting. I was presenting at the 34th annual Rural Community Economic Development Conference about the Move to Mattoon program. Went really well. We also, our community got a shout out from the Lieutenant Governor, just saying, talking about her time visiting the community and things like that. So it's always good to have our name out there in the state. Last week, Mattoon in Motion in the city met with SILVA, the Central Illinois Land Bank Authority, to just kind of hear a little bit more about land banking and how we can use that to address vacant, abandoned, and deteriorating properties in our community, which we got nearly 900 vacant homes in Mattoon. And so basically, by potentially joining SILVA, we would gain some partial home rule authority to be able to address those, which is huge. From there, Pocket Park design is finalized, construction starting like this week. So that's really exciting for that space next to Luigi's. Outside of that, 2 significant zoning requests. We got somebody that's interested in purchasing the trailer park at 609 Marion. So, kind of walking them through that process, feeling them out, seeing how they are. And then there's also a developer that's from Mattoon that's interested in building a drive-through coffee shop in the northernmost section of the parking lot over at Harbor Freight. So, that basically they're good to go from a zoning standpoint, but once they get real site plans, things like that, I'll be sending that over to Public Works and Fire. And then outside of that, Defense Depot had to send back a building permit that they applied for because they didn't have engineered drawings. So that's pretty much what I got. And my last question is really just Is council supportive of revising current liquor ordinance beyond what we've already done today? I heard that before my time in Mattoon, that there had been a town hall meeting that discussed some of that, and that, from my understanding, was a priority of this council potentially. So, I'm more than happy to begin work on that, but I just want to know if there's, council support there before I start putting time on that.
Yeah, and you're talking about some fairly significant changes to the ordinances. And that would require, and I don't know if you've given the council members enough information to really respond to your question.
Yeah, absolutely.
But what we might do, because it's going to take you quite a bit of time to do research and develop this, maybe what you ought to do, just my thought, is to maybe outline the key things that you're looking at. Not doing the research yet, but at least get some feedback from the council members to see how they feel.
Mainly for me, I feel there's a real opportunity there to attract brewery brew pubs to town, whilst basically divorcing that from increasing gaming in the community. That's my kind of angle on that. But, just basically cultural opportunities, but or additional gaming.
Yeah. Well, in fact, you're thinking, one of your thought patterns at this point is that you would separate gaming from the alcohol.
And I already put just a request for information with the Illinois Gaming Board to see if that's even possible. So I reached out to their legal department just saying like, hey, I'm just kind of throwing this around. We're not doing anything like this, but we're curious. So.
Right. Any comments offhand? I know we're not giving you any very much information at all.
No.
You need to get more information in front of you. But any thoughts offhand?
No, I just feel like when I was acting mayor, Kyle and I met with a group from Effingham that was wanting to open a liquor store similar to like a Friar Tuck's or, what was that place?
Benny's?
Benny's.
Yeah.
But part of it too, they wanted the gaming side too, but we didn't have any license available. So I think, we don't have really any drive-up liquor stores anymore, do we?
County Market.
County Market
Yeah.
closed. Well, yeah, County Market does. So I think we're missing some opportunities there because personally, I think our ordinances were geared for 30 or 40 years ago and
Right.
times have changed. So that's kind of what we threw out at the town meeting.
And that's been the biggest struggle that we've had with people coming in was, we actually have already got a little bit drafted on the brew pubs and wineries, but we've never acted upon it because every time someone comes in and wants a brew pub, they want the gaming. And I'm like, that's not what we want. So, I said, we can make those changes if you're willing not to do the gaming, but.
Forget about express drive-through.
Oh, yeah, I forget. I'm sorry, I don't go
Yeah.
there. So yeah, they do. Yeah.
Who's that?
Yeah.
Alex, I have a question. You made reference to home rule, which of course we're not home rule.
Yeah.
So how does that tie into the land bank and these 900 vacant properties?
Yeah, so
How's that benefit us as a
Yeah,
city?
it benefits us greatly. And I can send you write up report I've already made for that. But basically because Champaign and Decatur are members, and we would have an intergovernmental agreement in terms of housing and addressing those vacant properties, dilapidating properties, we would be able to act with their authority.
Kind of piggyback on what they're doing.
So instead of going through, the tax process, waiting 2 to 3 years while they're just sitting there and deteriorating, it's more like 8 months.
Yeah.
So
It doesn't make us home rule, but it gives us some home rule capabilities on this subject.
Yeah, we get to use the home rule authority they use for demolitions. So, yeah, instead of waiting until the property is ready to be demolished before we can go in there and demolish it, there's a possibility after 2 years of not paying taxes, the land bank can ask for the property to do a court order.
I see.
And
So it speeds the process.
speeds process and possibly saves the building before it gets to the point where it needs to be torn down.
Good stuff.
Any other questions for Alex? Let's see, comments by the council. Start with Commissioner Clausen,
Don't have anything, Mayor?
Commissioner Graven,
I have nothing, Mayor.
Commissioner Phipps,
I'm strike three. I don't have anything either.
okay? We're still moving along here. And let's see, I guess I'm the last one. I'm just going to pass. That's the report.
Well, that's a first.
Yeah. Wait.
You guys were thinking it, you just didn't.
Yeah, you guys don't want to say it, but you're thinking it. Yeah.
Yeah. Budgeted. All right. So we do have another agenda item, and that's, of course, the additional budget discussion. And I guess I'll turn this over to Kyle at this time to start with it.
So very similar to last council meeting. I'm going over the preliminary. I gave some recommendations. I got some comments back from some of you, and Beth and I have sat down and worked on it some more. And so, we were got to where we were about 100 and started out 142, and then we found some things that we wanted to change. The water and sewer fund, we wanted to switch that from the 34, 33, 33 to 40, 30, 30, which went the wrong direction, 162,000. We've done some more looking at the salaries and benefits. It was 15,000, almost 16,000 the wrong direction. Electrical and gas rates are up. We went and looked at it. We increased everything 50% over this current year's budget. The reallocation of some audit fees. We know the audit's going up, so we reallocated to some other funds that weren't paying anything. Again, this will also help with the water and sewer a little bit. Replacing a PD pickup truck was what we were planning on doing this year. It's got moved back, what we did tonight, but we are replacing 2 squads early, so that will make up for it. So we were about 452,000 upside down. We also went back and we had some comments about looking at the sales taxes and other revenues. We went back and looked at the sales tax harder. We feel that we should be able to increase that at 1% over what's coming in this year. So added 99,000. Building permits, if the sports complex goes, we added 10,000 more to that. That should be easy. I mean, it'd probably be more than 10,000 if the sports complex goes, but on the timing of things, we wanted to be a little bit conservative still, but there was 10,000 we added. Interest income, interest rates are higher. We've, got the ARPA funds, but we will be spending some of those ARPA funds. And so we thought we raised it another 85,000 on interest income. Accelerated some purchases that we talked about last time. 7,000 in wiring for City Hall, and that is to be able to go to a VoIP system, phone system, and actually speed up our internet in the building, which anyone that works in this building is going to really greatly appreciate. City Hall servers, purchased them this year, 25,000. We're going to buy 5 computers in the PD this current year and 5 next year. We're going to buy all 10 this year. And then the 2 squad cars we just did tonight. We decreased the ambulance MEF contribution. We looked at what we thought a new ambulance would be and applied for a couple grants or low interest loans. We were able to reduce that $20,000. We did take out a new park employee, which saved $65,000. Eliminated 1 labor pool that we had put in the budget, $30,000 for the general funds portion, and eliminated 1 of the police officers. I know there was discussions back and forth though. Where do we cut? Do we want to cut those? That we did leave in 1 new police officer. We have the replacement, and we have a replacement labor pool to keep us at 16, and we have a replacement in the park department to keep us at 3. So that put us at a positive 71,000 for the budget. So, I mean, we're in a good spot. If there's, questions, concerns, please reach out to Beth and I, and we can discuss further. But I mean, this is a good process so far that we've gone through, and we'll continue to reevaluate and look at things. And like I said, we're in a good position for this time of the year.
We've got two more. We need to, at the next meeting, we need to approve the budget for the next year, fiscal year, right?
The next meeting, I will have the presentation of where we're at, the big presentation I do, and then the second meeting in April, we will.
The second one, okay.
Yeah.
All right, so we've got a little bit of time
We've got a little
here.
bit of time still.
Okay.
But I'm proceeding this way until you guys tell me, nope, we got to do something different.
Good.
And then voting on the, any projects with the ARPA funds has to be done by the close of this fiscal year as well.
2024, allocated by 2024, so end of 2024. So we still got time on that, but we will have.
So we can take it all the way to April 30th of next year.
Yeah.
To spend.
Any other questions about the budget? Okay.
Yeah, I revenues, I'm gonna send these out. If you guys want to see what the changes are in revenues, what's increased, what's decreased. I don't want to hold you guys up tonight if you don't want to, but I'll send these out. But basically revenues are up, 1.1 million over the last year or this current year, and the expenses are up as well, but 1.2 million. So, a large part of the expenses is pensions. We have a big chiller at the PD that's 200,000. We have video gaming funds. I restored the 20%, so there's an extra 200,000 almost there in expenditures for equipment, for building repairs. I think those were the major ones. And then the salaries were up about $500,000. So I can go into more detail if you want, or I can pass and send this to you guys, and then you guys can reach out to Beth or I.
So we could talk a few more hours if we wanted to.
We can talk all night if you want to, but I'm sure many of you.
But you'll send all this detail to us. I mean, I know there's a lot, even more than this.
Right.
But you highlighted the key changes here.
Yep. I went over it pretty quick, but unless you guys got specific questions, I am done with that tonight.
Okay. If there's no other questions and no other presentation, then we'll take a motion to adjourn if anybody wants to.
I'll make that motion.
Commissioner Clausen makes a motion to adjourn.
I'll second that motion.
Okay, all right.
Well, he popped up on that one, didn't he?
Yeah, what'd you do? Turn your volume up?
Pretty much. I woke up.
He wants to get back to his sampling. I know.
Yeah, all right. Okay, so roll call.
Commissioner Clausen,
Yes.
Commissioner Grayman,
Yes.
Commissioner Phipps,
No.
Mayor Hall.
You can't second and then.
Okay, I'll change
No.
mine. I'll change it back to yes.
Okay. Lee?
Yep.
Yes.
Do we have to redo the motion now?
No.
Done.
Okay.
Meeting's done.
All right.
Adjourned.
You
Thank
did-
you, everyone.
Thank you. Thank you all.
See you, Dave.
That's